So here we are, therapists in conversation, and I'm in conversation again with Angela Daye from Inner Pathways. And, it's mid 2021 and things are moving forward, and so are we. So we're updating because Angela's been up to quite a few things since we last spoke.
Just a
And
few.
Just a few. And if you've been watching our episodes that have been going on monthly, you'll know that Angela is a little bit interested in collecting certificates. So she's been expanding her knowledge base quite a bit, haven't you?
I have indeed, yeah. So I like how you put that nice and gentle. That I like. Yeah, I'm an addict. I don't mind saying that. I am addicted to collecting certificates. I'm all up for admitting to that one.
Okay. So it's one of those things that basically, when we do that, and when we are doing what we do, we really are so interested in what it is that we're doing that we seek to find out what everybody else is up to at the same time. It's more curiosity than being nosy, but it's also got to do with having more tools in your toolbox and being able to help more people, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, the big ones I've added in last year, so I did the qualification last year for hypnotherapy and coaching. And the reason I picked those up was partly because people tended to struggle with the concept of what kinesiology was.
Mm.
And I thought, well, actually, let's put some more things in there that people might understand better. Hasn't been the case, but I've got another couple of certificates out of it. I've got a lot of learning out of it. And I've got some fantastic new tools and techniques to work with clients, which is so helpful.
And it's true though, isn't it, that hypnotherapy particularly it is more involved in a lot of therapies, particularly talking therapies, than one would initially believe, because it's not just you are sleepy, you are going to sleep, you're going to change now. There's so much more to that.
And the style of hypnotherapy that I do, that's not the way we do it as well. So it's, yeah, and it's interesting because kinesiology by its nature, or the branch of kinesiology that I practice, is not really a talking therapy. So what I've done is I've allowed people now that they've got the option. If you want to talk to me, brilliant. We'll do some coaching and hypnotherapy. If you don't want to talk to me, that's fine too. We can stick to the kinesiology. And there's always that blend in the middle where we can bring in both things together.
Yeah, it's the interesting part. It's like stirring in that extra ingredient into the recipe that just gives it that touch of finesse, I think is probably the way to put it.
That's it.
We were saying a little bit about the you are going to sleep, you are sleepy, which is the authoritative version of hypnotherapy. And we both practice the permissive way of doing things. So it's more conversational.
So I actually practice generative, which is another branch on again.
It's even more. So good.
So I do something slightly different, I believe. So I think it's Ericksonian is the one that you do. So while I do have some of the Ericksonian stuff in my toolkit, it's more of the generative. So what I'm looking at is bringing the conscious mind and the unconscious mind together to have a conversation with each other. And that's not always what happens with hypnotherapy. And it's not what happens in our day-to-day lives. We don't tend to have that space where we bring the two parts of ourselves together to then see where the creativity is and what our lives should, want to look like. And that's the beauty of the style of hypnotherapy that I actually practice.
It is very hard. It's almost like getting Boris Johnson to go to France, trying to get your unconscious and or as I like to call it, universal mind and your conscious mind actually in the same space at the same time.
So I find it a lot easier than that. And I'm not even going to go down the route of even thinking about Boris Johnson and wherever he may be in the world. So the way that the hypnotherapy style that I do does definitely bring that together really, really quite well. And really effectively as well. So I've had some fantastic shifts for a number of people just by going through this process where they're completely awake, they're completely aware of what's happening, and they're in the driving seat. All I'm doing is facilitating the journey, which kind of works with my tagline, which is company for your journey as well. So and pathways and where all that takes you.
Yeah, it's always good to wonder.
Yeah.
And, you know, a little wonder while you're wondering is really good too. So what else have you been up to?
What else have I been up to? Is that not enough?
Well, you know, it's like, well, you mentioned that you were having some great shifts. Can you describe the kind of issues that people have been coming to you with?
Strangely, not the issues I was expecting. So most people that have come to me so far it's all been about money. So it's been money mindset, it's been financial intentions. There are other things as well that creep in, and once we deal with the money aspect, other things start to uncover. But yeah, for so far, it's been the money mindset, financial intention stuff that people have been coming forward for and looking for, which has been quite nice.
It's quite usual that the symptom is not the cause.
Yeah, so I've had people come to me with some pretty big goals to get to, and I think when we've started the session, it's been a feeling of a bit pie in the sky. I've got this dream. I've no idea how I'm going to get there, but this is what I want. And with the sessions that we've been doing, it's been about, okay, that's the dream. How do we get there? What's it going to look like? What's the journey going to? What shape is the journey going to take? And actually moving people towards it. And I had one person within a week come back and say, I've got this great idea. And then the next week come back and said, that was because of your session, wasn't it? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you tend to not get the immediate response. It's a slow burn.
It's not a magic wand. So with kinesiology, we work out how long between sessions at the end of a session. And it's not a case of we're working out how long between sessions because you for any other reason than because your body needs time to process the work that we've done.
Yeah, it's not same time next week.
Yeah. So with the kinesiology, I've had a couple this last wee while that it's been 6 or 7 weeks before it's ready for coming back. I do have a couple that are 2 weeks and come back. Just depends on how much we get through in that session and how much that person's then got to work behind the scenes, whether it's subconsciously, unconsciously, or whatever's going on for them, or when I've given them homework to go and giggle, which is always fun.
Well, yeah, it is an interesting thing to say that, and I'm saying interesting an awful lot at the moment.
You are.
It is, yes, but
That's very interesting.
It's very interesting. I'm having an interesting day. Yeah. But it's fascinating. There's a word for you. It's fascinating to understand that many people really don't realize that these things will come in their own time. It's like when you make the boulder wobble at the top of the hill, and it just takes one more little push, but it'll take its sweet time to actually go over that last little step, that last little obstacle, and roll down the hill. And once it does, there's no stopping it.
Well, there's always ways.
Well, yes, there's a kind of government health warning situation that goes on there with some shifts, isn't there?
Yeah.
It doesn't always go the way you expect.
I do set the intention at the start of the session for a smooth shift. Doesn't always happen, but I do ask for them to be smooth, because the last thing I want is someone to go away and get cold and flu-like symptoms, especially with what's going on in the world just now, and have those symptoms because their body's shifting stuff. And that has happened in the past. I have had clients who have come down with what has felt like the flu for 3 days. I was really worried. It was quite early on in my days of energy healing, and I was quite worried at the time of, oh no, what have I done? My client was saying, this is brilliant, something's happening. So it just shows you that perspective as well. So for me, I was...
Yeah, but it's really good that they actually recognized that the shift and the manifestation of physical symptoms were actually together. One was showing the other.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that people don't realize, that we hold things in our bodies in different places.
Yeah.
And so when we're holding them there, once we open the doors and allow them to go, they are going to actually in a verb, shift. And that causes physical manifestations of symptoms and signs.
But it's also that point of, I don't even think it's just from the work that we do. My understanding and feeling when it comes to the kinesiology that I practice as well, is that when a client is coming to me with physical symptoms, it's usually come from a psychological or an emotional perspective first. It's not come on its own. Yes, there are occasions if you've been in a car accident and something's thwacked you, or you've broken a bone because you've been doing some extreme sports or whatever it is, that there's obviously a reason there as to why that's happened. But a lot of symptoms and a lot of physical stuff that's going on in our bodies is because we're holding on to something, or we're not letting go of something, or there's something else triggering it. And that's something else that we have great fun uncovering. I'm working with.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who are really in reasonably stressful and sometimes very stressful jobs, and they work their socks off, and they keep going and keep going and keep going. And then when they have a holiday, they get the flu, they get sick. And it's almost like, because we don't realize that we can do it, we can shift that situation of, I don't have time to be ill just now.
Yeah.
And as soon as we let go and relax, the body just says, oh, right, it's time. Just get it all done now, because they're not going to be moving. They're not going to be going anywhere. And you're miserable for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
we much better if we don't end up with that, right?
Yeah, but that's just it. I think there's a re-education situation that goes on as well. And people like us, you particularly, can help with that, because you're explaining and allowing people to understand that they can allow themselves to rest in between giant bursts of activity at work and stress and just the chronic melee of being in that situation. And then, it's all or nothing situations, I think, is what I'm trying to say. So I
guess we've also had a situation over the last 18 months where people aren't taking their holidays. So if they're not giving their body that break period to allow their bodies to go and get sick and get ill, they're holding it and holding it and holding it. There's only so much pressure you can put on an item before it snaps.
Yeah, and do you think that that's actually the case at the moment, is that we're seeing more stress-related illnesses and mental health issues to do with the fact that we're actually being stuck? Yeah.
When was the last time somebody said to you, oh, I'm off to the beach and I'm going to go and sit on the beach and not worry about it? The idea of going on holiday just now brings its own stressors. When have I got to get tested? Have I got to have a vaccine before I go? How many tests have I got to get? When do I get them? How much are the tests going to cost me? I've got to sit on a plane with this mask. All that's noise as well. So suddenly you're week in the sunshine, if you're even able to get on a plane to go and sit in sunshine for a week. Suddenly that's become a much bigger ordeal to get there. So even if you are going and having a holiday, you're not having the relaxing time that you maybe would have had before.
And it doesn't even have to be abroad.
Yeah, well, so if you're not abroad and you're able to drive yourself somewhere, then it's not quite as stressful. But yeah, there's always that aspect of it. And I think for a lot of people that the situation has been so alien for the last 18 months. And I know myself, when I was in the corporate world, I wouldn't take time off to sit in the house. If I was taking time off, it was because I had something planned and I wanted to go and do something. Or I would plan to go away and do something because I had time planned off. So I don't know how I would have fared over the last 18 months if I was still in the corporate world, thinking, well, if I take time off, all I'm going to do is sit in my house.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like a fun time to do.
But even at that, people are being furloughed and forced to stay in their houses.
So that's the other side of it as well, isn't it? So you've got that catch-22. The people that were furloughed are feeling a bit rubbish because they're in their houses, they can't go anywhere, but actually they can learn stuff. So there is some positives there as well. They could be doing other things. And then you've got the people that weren't furloughed, who are still going to work every day, still with all that stress and all that commute. perhaps more so because some of their colleagues were furloughed. And then they don't feel as if they can have that conversation with their friends as to how it's affecting them, because how dare they be upset because they've got a job and they're still going to work and life's not changed for them. So it's trying to find that balance of, you know what, everybody's going through a bit of a rubbish time to a certain extent, because some of their things that they would have done before, they're not able to do now. Some people
and
have had a great time.
Some of the things that they would do before, they're not able to do, but they also have the added extras of being in the same space as their spouse and their children for 24 hours a day.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, it seems to be tailing off. I'm not going to say we're never going to have another lockdown again, but we are now in this beyond level 0, whatever that might mean in Scotland.
Yeah, what is that?
So, I don't know, but it means that we're allowed to go outside again, right? So yeah, a lot of things have opened up again. A lot of movement is allowed again now. So I believe that a lot of that will change if people feel comfortable enough to go outside again.
And the interesting thing is, just because they're comfortable enough to feel that they can go outside doesn't mean they've left behind the stress factors that are just, they're kind of carrying the weather with them to a certain extent. So they're still going to need some help down the line.
Absolutely.
Many people. And I think that's why we're doing this for starters, to let people know that we're there. But also, I mean, there are so many different things that you can help with, isn't there?
Yeah. And that's what I love about learning new modalities and bringing new modalities into the mix, and being able to help people with whatever's going on. And it's that point I heard, I don't even know who made the quote, but I think it's quite, I've seen it quite a few times, it's quite common. If we don't make time for our wellness, we will be forced to make time for our illness.
Oh, that's good. That's powerful.
Yeah. And I think it is so important that if you don't take the time to go and have a massage, or to come and see somebody like one of us, or the rest of our lovely cohort in Therapists in Conversation, then you're going to have to make time to go to the doctors.
And the doctor's not going to have time to see you.
Well, I was going to say, how difficult is that just now?
Yeah.
It's a phone call that you might get what you need, or you then might have to wait and get another appointment to then go and see somebody face to face, and everything that goes with it. And then potentially that added stress of having to walk to a doctor's surgery. I'm not aware of any of the doctors doing video calls where you can say, look, I've got a rash, or whatever it might be that's come up for you.
Ours does it on the telephone and then tells you to email them a picture.
Yeah. And I'm a photographer, so I could have great fun with pictures before I send them to the doctors.
Yeah.
I don't. I actually did thankfully get in to see my doctor when I needed to recently. But it is that point that if we're not making the time to make sure that we stay robust, we make the time to go and get the car serviced, we make the time to go and get the car MOT'd, but we don't make the time for ourselves. And don't make it a priority.
Do you think it's a good idea to come and see someone like us to actually do that as a maintenance situation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why only ever go when something breaks?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's in the old days, well, in China anyway, what they used to do in the old days was that you paid the doctor when you were well, and he paid you when you were ill. Because then he wasn't doing his job properly. He wasn't keeping you well.
Well, I don't think that quite works with the way that their health system works here.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really, but it's an interesting idea in the psychology of wellness and illness.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I do genuinely believe that we should all have a maintenance package. So I'm qualified in kinesiology, and I have some great swaps. Some with a person who does the exact same type of kinesiology that I do, which is health kinesiology. And I also do some great swaps with someone who does a different type of kinesiology. So she experiences what I have to offer, and I experience what she has to offer. And I've got those set up relatively regularly. So I'm looking at least monthly that I'm doing those. On top of that, I've got swaps set up with other hypnotherapists and coaches. So I'm always making sure that I'm topped up. I'm always making sure that I've had the oil change and I've had the tire pressure checked or whatever it is that needs to happen. And sometimes it can be a really short session because it's just a case of, right, what's going on for you this week? Have you got any problems? Have you got anything come up new? And if not, let's just do a general overall balance and get things shifting. And you might not be consciously aware of stuff that's going on, but let's grab it now before you do become conscious of it, before it does become an ache, a pain. I'm lying in my bed for a week because I can't move, whatever that might be. And I think that, I don't know if all therapists do that, but I do know that I make sure that I take that time.
I think many of us do.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the important things that we understand, because the other aspect of it is that because we've been to see these people and we've worked with these people for ourselves, we can also refer people who we know are not good matches for what we do.
Absolutely.
Or they're looking for something a little bit different. Because therapy is like anything else. It's horses for courses to a certain extent. Just because you don't have something happening with one therapist doesn't mean to say the therapy's wrong.
Could just be that you don't resonate with that person.
Yeah, the energy's
clash.
Not quite there. Yeah, the energy might not be there. It just could be something, but it also could be something that the therapist themselves knows that this person is looking for something that they don't really excel at.
Yeah.
But hey, I know someone who does, and I can put you in touch with that person. So there are big advantages to doing what we do.
Absolutely.
And also big advantages for clients to do that, to come and regularly have a top up, to understand that it's okay to go and, I'm not saying they should come every week unless they absolutely have to, but every so often, once their initial issue that they've come to you for has been fixed or is on its way to being fixed, it's good to keep it up, because occasionally, I don't know about you, but I've had people come to me and they've felt really good, really great. They've gone home and they've got themselves back in the situation again, and suddenly it's all gone back to where they started almost.
But that's a perception. So I don't believe it ever goes back to where it started. I believe it does. It perhaps something else new has come onto the scene. Something else has been uncovered, which is usually more the case, because we're all like onions, right? You peel off a layer, you deal with the gunge between those two layers. But when you peel the next layer off, there's a bit more gunge that needs to be dealt with.
I'm never going to look at an onion the same way again.
I was trying to think of polite words. Gunge.
Yeah, it's a good kind of onomatopoeic word, gunge.
Yeah. Or that slimy stuff. Yeah, let's deal with the slime.
Gungy. Life can be very gungy on occasions. But yeah, that's what I meant. Is there's a kind of default switch that can go, that can be switched on.
Yeah.
And the initial kind of euphoria, and I think that's the word for it. There's a euphoria that comes after you've been and had a little bit of therapy sometimes. And you kind of take that with you. However, if you don't keep up with what's going on and keep up with what you've been advised to do and how to be, which can be, let's face it, a little bit difficult, particularly at the moment when you've got so many things coming at you from so many places, then you can get a little bit lax in keeping up the discipline to a certain extent.
And I think if I'm keeping the car analogy, I've got a lot of road-based analogies just now with the group's work I'm about to be launching. But if I keep the car analogy, you don't wash your car once and never wash it ever again. So just because you've fixed it, just because you've cleaned it, it's going to get dirty again. You're going to have to wash it again.
Yeah.
So stuff sticks. And you might have cleared out all the gunge, but the next time you drive through a puddle, you've got some gunge back on the car. You maybe need to wash it off again. So yeah.
So you were talking about groups. I heard groups there. What's going on with groups?
Yeah.
We're not talking the Beatles here, are we?
No, we're not. So I've launched a new Facebook group called Time to Transition, and I am looking at working with people or having people in the group who are at a transition point. So as I talk about the roads and the car analogies, and I might as well stick with it, right? I was thinking about doing something nautical, but I've kind of gone down the road route. So I might
bring with that one.
Well, I might bring the all at sea back again. But yeah, the road-based analogy is that we get to points in our lives where we've achieved something, and we sit in that achievement, perhaps not really celebrating the achievement, but we sit in the achievement and then suddenly realize, is this it? Or have I got, what else is there to life? Because I've now got what I dreamed about. And perhaps if you're like one of these really kind of go-getters, which I suppose I was to a certain extent in my 20s, I'd graduated university, I got the job, I'd moved away for the job, I got the car, I had the house, and life was just a bit meh. It wasn't great. It wasn't what all it was cracked up to be. I wasn't quite ready for asking for my money back, but I probably wasn't far off it. And I did have a couple of big wobble moments of, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I signed up for. So I know myself, if I went through those phases, and I've spoken to a number of people go through those phases. And it might not be because you've just left your university career and you're now out in the big bad world. It could be that you've just renovated a house. It could be that you've just got married. It could be whatever is going on in life. And you've achieved something. And then what? So it's about looking towards future goals. It's about looking towards what else do you want from life, and acknowledging that life is about the journey. It's about following those pathways and the roadways and wherever else you want to take them. There might be some motorways involved too. But it's that point of realizing that life is a journey. And you've got to choose.
Sometimes it's okay to drive for yourself.
Sometimes it's good to be in the driving seat. Sometimes it's good to be in the passenger seat. Sometimes it's good to be snoozing in the back seat and just letting somebody else take control. But yeah, you've got to make those decisions as to which seat in the car you want to be in. You've got to decide who you want to take with you for the journey. But the point I was trying to get to as I was rambling towards it was that the journey, the destination that you programmed into your sat nav, as I told you, I'm doing a lot of road analogies. The destination that you programmed into your sat nav is just a stopping point. It's not the end destination. The end destination is when we're leaving the mortal coil kind of thing, isn't it? So as long as we're here, we're going to be
as far as we know.
Yeah. So it's always a stopping point in my mind. So it might be a stopping point for a month. It might be a stopping point for a couple of years. It might be a stopping point for a couple of hours. I've spoken to people about job decisions and things like that. And one girl said to me, 4 hours is my shortest job. So yeah, it could be as short as 4 hours. But whatever the stopping point is, it's about looking forward to the next thing. So those stopping points is what I'm calling transition points. And that's where the time to transition comes in.
Actually, that's quite interesting because I was reading something about that this morning, as I do.
Was it something I wrote? Was it? Because I might not remember what it was.
No, it was on my pocket articles, and something to do with knowing when to quit, knowing when to change, knowing when to jump, and realizing that that's it, you've had enough, and taking the brave step, because for a lot of people it's quite scary in that, you know, you've trained, you've worked, you've been there, and I mean I've done it twice myself, and so, you know, within the same profession I did it twice, but at the same time what I'd actually done was not really let go on the first shot. I'd left a position, but I hadn't left the profession, because there was so many different things, security wise, financially wise, that were still nipping at my heels. So I had to go and actually go back into the profession, because that was the way I could make money. That's the way I could keep myself and my car and my mortgage and the whole thing that was going on. But eventually I had to leave that too, because it just wasn't right anymore.
But it's about working out, when is it right? So it was obviously right for you just to take the sideways move within the profession at that point, because that's what you needed to do to then get yourself to a point where you thought, no, this isn't for me anymore. But you've got to take that time to really assess for yourself, when is the right time to jump. And again, it's those points that you're saying about people taking the decision to go and do something completely different. Just because you're doing something completely different doesn't mean the skills that you've got and the knowledge that you've attained is going to be for nothing. So it's silly little examples. In my last career role, I was an expert of using Excel. I was also a project manager. So when you're talking about finding that point where it is the right point to walk away, a lot of projects that have happened sometimes would have benefited from the point of, do you know what, closing down now would be the better option. But it's that point that, so the Excel aspect, I run my business on Excel, or it's now time to start moving into more professional tools for it. But I track everything in Excel, and that's because I'm comfortable doing that, because that's what I did for years. But it's also bringing in business management aspects, bringing in project management and business analysis aspects that I've done in my career over the 16 or so years that I was working, as well as all the tech stuff, so I can build my own websites. But that means that I'm positioned in a way that while I am working with kinesiology and with hypnotherapy and with coaching, it means I can bring in some business coaching elements, and it means I can bring in all that rich knowledge and experience and continue to use it, but in a different way.
Well, this is true. We don't actually have these skills in a vacuum. They are transferable in life.
Absolutely.
And we are adaptable and nothing else. But when someone is coming, and one of the biggest things, I think, two of them anyway, would be empty nest syndrome and retirement.
So it's interesting you say that. When with a lot of business setup and everything else, we look at our ideal client avatars, and my ideal client avatar is somewhere between the age of 28 and 32. So that's not your empty nesters and people that are retiring. That's not to say I can't work with those people. And actually, I've got quite a number of them on my books. It's just about who I'm messaging the time to transition stuff towards. But that point is that we have transitions in our life all through our lives. And it could be empty nesters. It could be the silver. There's a craze just now where people, when they get to that silver surfer point, of splitting up with relationships that they've been in for 50 odd years, because suddenly they realize it's not where they want to be. I don't know if I agree with people jumping ship from that perspective. Maybe it'd be nice to actually work on the relationship rather than
I think it happens a lot with empty nesters, because suddenly all the attention, all the energy was focused towards what the children were doing, and suddenly the two parents realized that they hadn't spent very much time together at all and don't know each other anymore. Surely
and if the empty nest happens at the same time as retirement, that can be a huge change for someone in their life.
And trying to find something that, somebody said to me, what's the definition of retirement? I said, gardening.
Oh, no, that wouldn't be the definition of retirement for me. No, thanks. My definition of retirement is as I left my corporate job. So I do joke that I retired and I walked out of my corporate job. I'm clearly still working, right? But I'm not doing what I was doing before. It's all a state of mind.
Yeah, I mean, I have retired from my previous profession. Doesn't mean I've retired from being in the working arena.
Correct.
I'm just in a new territory. But actually, is it? Because in my old career, I had to deal with a lot of problems with people. Just I was dealing with the things at the end of the leads and in the cat baskets more
absolutely
often than not.
Yeah, but it's about bringing the skills and the experience that we've got, and absolutely, there will be people that are empty nesters and retirees who would definitely benefit from what I'm doing, and I would never shut the door on people in that group, because it's another transition.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel as if I've settled on this concept of transitions. Now, that doesn't then explain the fact that I'm doing all this work with people that are looking for financial intentions and money mindset changes. Or perhaps it does, because it actually can all be interconnected. So it's just about working out, what do you really want from life? And if you're not happy with it, what's it going to take to make you happy? And actually, maybe the bigger question is, do you even know what it is to be happy? And work out a definition for the word happy for yourself first.
And that's kind of what the title of your business, Inner Pathways, is about as well. It goes back onto the analogy of the journey, and even comes in with the cars too, because, you know, a pathway is still a road. It's one of those things that understanding that you are actually moving forward and having to move forward, that you will need some help somewhere along the line.
So it's interesting you say that. I don't think we have to move forwards. I think we just do. I don't think you can really move backwards. You're always moving in a forwards direction, whether you then turn left or right or whichever way that was.
Oh yeah, I mean, basically,
or walking around in a circle or driving around in a circle, you're still always moving forward. We can't go back to where we were before, because life has changed since yesterday.
Yeah.
Or obviously with everything that's happening over the last 18 months, life has changed since where we were in 2019. We're not going to go back to that.
Yeah, there is no back to normal.
Yeah, some elements of what we had in 2019 will resurface, but I don't believe that we're going backwards. I think we're always moving forwards. And as I said, if you turn a different direction, you're still moving forward in that direction.
Yeah, you still have to face where you go, unless you're a crab.
Well, I was going to say, unless you're me on hills, because I can't walk down hills. So I do tend to turn around and walk backwards, but that's a whole other story. If you want to know about that, come and have a Zoffy with me.
Yeah. When I do that, I'd like to see that. Maybe not. Then I'd have to be going down the hill too. Which means I would have to go up it in the first place.
Yeah, I do joke with my first stage of my course or my program being, I'm on top of the mountain. I've achieved what I was supposed to achieve, but the clouds are coming in. Amazon don't deliver up here, and neither do Deliveroo, and there's no Wi-Fi. And actually, how do I get down?
Yeah.
So that's falling over. That's my anecdotal first step on the journey.
So when people are coming to you particularly, do they transition into the group, or can they come into the group without actually being seen by you first?
Anyone's welcome in the group. All they've got to do is click the button and answer a couple of questions and jump straight into the group. If you're joining the group, all I'm looking for, as when I say a couple of questions, how did you find out about it? So if you're watching this, wherever you watch this from, and if it's a case of you've come to the group because you know me from somewhere else, or you know me from whatever, you've been a client before, that would be the question that you'd answer there. But how have you found out about the group? Do you want to join my mailing list? My mailing list is an email once a week. It's not onerous. I don't mind if you press delete. If you really want to not have it anymore, you can also press unsubscribe. But I do waffle a little bit, and sometimes it's interesting.
And you do lives too. It's on Facebook, by the way.
The open free group is on Facebook. I will be launching a members only group, which will be a paid membership group, which will have an element on Facebook, but it will also be on the website. So that will be coming within the next couple of months.
Ooh, groovy.
Absolutely.
So what else have you been up to?
I don't know really. I'm looking forward to a holiday and actually having that unwind period, which would be really, really nice. And yeah, so it's just, to be honest, the biggest things recently have been getting myself to do Facebook Lives, because if anyone's watched any of them, I do quite regularly say that I don't like Facebook Lives. I've got no issue talking to somebody, but I'm not a big fan of sitting on a camera by myself talking to a camera.
Talking to yourself.
Yeah. So Facebook Lives have been an interesting challenge for me recently. As I said, I've been doing a lot of work with people with money mindset and financial intentions. Kinesiology still going. I am bringing together the 3 practices that I do to have it as a one-stop shop. So rather than booking me for a kinesiology appointment or booking me for a coaching session, it will be that you'll just be booking me, and then whatever comes up on that session is what we'll do. Obviously, it will be a 2-way discussion to decide what you're comfortable with. So if you never really want to do kinesiology, then we don't have to bring that technique in. And the same goes with hypnotherapy. So it is just a case of, it'll be a session of working with me as my one-to-one. I am bringing in some group coaching sessions. So if anyone's interested in that, give me a shout. I'm going to wait until I've got a couple of people that are interested before I start setting those up. The paid members group, there will be group coaching sessions in there that will be open to anyone in the group. And yeah, so it's been all of those good fun things. And as always, I've still got the photography business running alongside. So I've got a couple of shoots that happen now and again. My main focus is inner pathways. But there is the option that if you need photos too, I'm still doing those as well. I just don't quite have the capacity to completely market and sell to both businesses at the same time just yet.
You kind of need to clone yourself for that at the moment, wouldn't you?
I think that might be too scary.
It's a transition too far.
Yeah, I think one of me's enough. There's a photo I did last year which was like a selfie challenge, that there was 3 of me sitting on the sofa, and other than the fact that I keep getting asked if I got sisters because they don't look like me, and I'm thinking they were all taken within about 3 minutes of each other. It's been a bit of an interesting one, but no, there's definitely only one of me.
So how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, lots of ways. So they can come directly to the website, which is innerpathways.co.uk. They can come and find me on Facebook. So Facebook groups, I think it's facebook.com/groups/time and then the number 2 transition, or just search for Time to Transition in the search bar on Facebook. And I'm on, I think, most of the social media platforms as HK Inner Pathways, HK standing for Health Kinesiology. Inner Pathways was taken, so I had to get creative. So yeah, so come reach out, Messenger or the contact page on the website. Come join the group. Yeah, lots of ways to get in touch.
And they can have a zoffie with you.
Yeah, you can book in for a zoffie too. So it's all good. And my blog has been launched. I've just not done a huge amount with it yet. So that's angeladaye.com. So there will be more coming there soon. And now that I've said it, means I've got to do it, doesn't it?
This is true, because you heard it here first.
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to wrap up now and say thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing what other certificates you're about to get. And we will talk again when that happens.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Actually, we'll talk again in a couple of weeks, because we've got the next episode of Therapist in Conversation coming up.
Absolutely.
Very, very soon.
As they are every month.
Yes. What are we on? Episode 13 now?
16.
14, 16. Oh my goodness.
I know you're not great with numbers, Leslie, but come on. We had a big debate about episode 13. No, I believe we're recording episode 16 in the next couple of weeks.
This is it. I transitioned beyond that, or did I transition to the side of that and just ignored it completely?
I think what you've really done is you've just let me deal with the numbers and you're just ignoring them, and I just tell you what number we're at. That's
usually the best idea. So anyway, thanks for watching and listening. And if there's anything you'd like to ask Angela, drop them in the comment box, or actually go to Facebook to Time to Transition, or email her Inner Pathways and have a chat.